Maya Angelou's only directorial effort hides surprising secrets, from a Mississippi Delta story shot entirely in Canada to a star-studded soundtrack featuring Whitney Houston's hidden vocals. This 1998 family drama contains bizarre behind-the-scenes details that even devoted fans never knew. Discover how a contest-winning screenplay, a legendary actress's final performance, and a candelabra with an unusual name came together in unexpected ways. Fact 1. Maya Angelou's one and only directing job. Maya Angelou accomplished incredible things throughout her remarkable life as a celebrated poet, best-selling author, civil rights activist, and performer. But there's one thing that might surprise you. She only directed one feature film, and Down in the Delta was it. Despite the film receiving generally positive reviews and earning a 76% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Angelou never stepped behind the camera to direct another movie after its release in 1998. This wasn't for lack of preparation or passion, though, because directing a feature film had actually been a career-long goal for her. Before taking on Down in the Delta, Angelou had completed the American Film Institute's prestigious Directing Workshop for Women, which helped prepare her for the challenges of helming a major production. She brought her unique artistic vision and deep understanding of storytelling to the project, and critics praised her deliberate pacing and the way she drew powerful performances from her cast, particularly from lead actress Alfre Woodard. Maya Angelou's approach to directing focused on letting the story breathe naturally, without unnecessary visual tricks or gimmicks, allowing the emotional weight of the family drama to speak for itself. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of 1998 and went on to win the Audience Choice Award at the Chicago International Film Festival, showing that viewers deeply connected with her directorial vision. Yet despite this success and her clear talent for the craft, Down in the Delta remains Angelou's sole directorial credit, making it both a beginning and an ending, a singular example of what this legendary artist could achieve when given the director's chair. Fact 2. Filmed entirely in Canada for Mississippi. If you watched Down in the Delta and found yourself transported to the hot, humid atmosphere of rural Mississippi, you might be shocked to learn that not a single frame of the movie was actually filmed anywhere near the Deep South. The entire production was shot in and around Toronto, Ontario, Canada, between July 6th and August 8th of 1997, making it one of the more successful geographical deceptions in film history. Toronto has long been known in the industry as Hollywood North because it frequently doubles for American cities in movies and television shows, but convincing audiences that Canada could pass for the Mississippi Delta took some serious creative work from the production team. Cinematographer William Wages and production designer Lindsay Hermer-Bell received special praise from critics for their ability to capture the authentic ambiance of rural life in the Deep South without ever setting foot there. They carefully selected locations, adjusted lighting to create that characteristic southern sun-drenched look, and paid close attention to every visual detail that would sell the illusion of Mississippi to viewers. The Variety Review specifically noted that although the film was shot in and around Toronto, it persuasively captured the atmosphere of the Delta region, which is quite an achievement considering the significant climate and landscape differences between southern Canada and the American South. This kind of location substitution happens often in filmmaking for practical and financial reasons, but it's particularly impressive when a film set in such a distinctive region manages to feel completely authentic while being shot thousands of miles away in a completely different country. Fact 3. Award-winning screenplay from unlikely source. The screenplay for Down in the Delta didn't come from an established Hollywood writer or someone with major studio connections, but rather from a Georgian writer named Myron Goebel, who won one of the most prestigious screenwriting competitions in the entire film industry. Goebel's script earned him the Academy Nicholl Fellowship in Screenwriting, which is administered by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the same organization that puts on the Oscars every year. This fellowship is extremely competitive, with thousands of screenplays submitted annually from writers all around the world, but only 5 fellowships awarded each year, along with a $35,000 prize for each winner. The Angelou Fellowship has launched the careers of numerous successful screenwriters since it was established in 1986, and winning it often serves as a major stepping stone for emerging writers trying to break into the notoriously difficult film industry. Roger Ebert specifically noted in his review that the film was based on a contest-winning screenplay by Goebel, and he praised how the story felt genuine and deeply felt, rather than following the lazy outlines of typical Hollywood formulas. The fellowship recognition gave Goebel's screenplay immediate credibility and helped attract the attention of producers who might otherwise have overlooked a script from an unknown writer. Maya Angelou herself didn't write this particular project, which some people find surprising given her legendary status as an author, but she was drawn to Goebel's authentic storytelling and his emphasis on simple truths and intelligent optimism rather than melodramatic contrivances, making it the perfect vehicle for her directorial debut. Fact 4. Esther Rolle's heartbreaking final film. Beloved actress Esther Rolle, who became a household name playing Florida Evans on the hit sitcom Good Times during the 1970s, gave her final film performance in Down in the Delta as Annie, a woman suffering from Alzheimer's disease. The timing of this film makes it particularly poignant because Rolle passed away on November 17, 1998, just months after the movie premiered at film festivals that same year, making it the last film released during her lifetime. Rolle was born on November 8, 1920, in Pompano Beach, Florida, and had built an impressive career spanning several decades, including winning an Emmy Award in 1979 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited Series or Special for the television movie Summer of My German Soldier, becoming the first African-American actress to win in that category. Her portrayal of Annie in Down in the Delta showcased her remarkable range as an actress, playing a character in the grip of dementia, with both heartbreaking vulnerability and unexpected moments of joy. Critics and viewers who watched the film noted the layered emotional depth she brought to the role, and some reviewers specifically mentioned being moved to tears by her performance. The film was shot in July and August of 1997, more than a year before her death, but the fact that audiences got to see her work one final time in such a meaningful family drama adds an extra layer of significance to the movie. Her contribution to Down in the Delta stands as a fitting farewell from an actress who spent her career portraying strong, dignified characters. Fact 5. Originally made for cable television. Down in the Delta wasn't initially intended to play in movie theaters at all, because it was originally produced as a made-for-television movie for the Showtime cable network before Miramax Films decided to give it a theatrical release. The production credits list it as a Miramax release of a Showtime presentation, which reveals its dual identity as both a cable television project and a theatrical film. This origin as a TV movie is something that several critics picked up on when they reviewed the film, with Variety's review explicitly stating that the movie never really transcends the limitations of an intimate, well-crafted, and resolutely old-fashioned television drama, even though the reviewer still found it to be a solid and affecting piece of work. The fact that it started as a Showtime production explains some of the creative choices in the film, including its more modest budget, its intimate storytelling style, and its focus on character development over spectacle or visual flourishes. Despite these made-for-TV origins, Miramax saw enough potential in the project to give it a proper theatrical release, and the film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of 1998, before opening in select theaters on December 25th of that same year. The theatrical release allowed the film to reach a wider audience than it would have if it had remained exclusively on cable television, and it managed to gross over $5 million during its limited theatrical run. Some viewers noted that the film had a quality that felt more like an afternoon special or a Hallmark production at times, but this didn't necessarily hurt the movie's reception among audiences who appreciated its heartfelt family story. Fact 6. Wesley Snipes' tiny role. Major producer credit. Wesley Snipes was riding high as one of Hollywood's biggest action stars in 1998, fresh off the success of films like Blade and U.S. Marshals, but his involvement in Down in the Delta tells an interesting story about his commitment to projects beyond typical blockbusters. Snipes served as one of the film's producers through his production company, Amun-Ra Films, which he had formed in 1991 to develop meaningful projects for film and television, yet his actual on-screen presence in the movie amounts to just a brief supporting role. He plays Will Sinclair, a corporate lawyer from Atlanta who is Earl's son and has become somewhat estranged from his family, appearing in only a handful of scenes throughout the film's nearly 2-hour runtime. The character exists largely to show the generational tensions within the Sinclair family and to give the main character Loretta, someone closer to her own age, to connect with about life and opportunities. Snipes' minimal screen time stands in stark contrast to his significant behind-the-scenes involvement as a producer who helped get the film made in the first place, and his name in the credits likely helped attract attention and funding to a modest family drama that might otherwise have struggled to find support. This wasn't unusual for Snipes during this period of his career, as he was actively using his star power and production company to support projects that told meaningful African-American stories, even when those roles didn't showcase his martial arts skills or action hero persona that made him famous. Fact 7. The candelabra named after a person. One of the strangest and most powerful elements of Down in the Delta is the way the family treats a sterling silver candelabra as if it were an actual family member, going so far as to give it a human name and refer to it with the kind of reverence normally reserved for a beloved ancestor. The candelabra is called Nathan throughout the entire film, named after the family's great-great-grandfather, who was enslaved and literally sold away from his wife and children in exchange for this very same silver candelabra during the slavery era. The film reveals that Nathan's son Jesse stole the candelabra back from his former owner's plantation during the Civil War, and it has been passed down through generations of the Sinclair family ever since, carrying with it the painful story of how Nathan was torn from his family. Characters in the movie speak about the candelabra using phrases like redeeming Nathan or asking, "Where is Nathan?" treating the object as a stand-in for the ancestor himself in a way that some critics found either deeply symbolic or slightly heavy-handed, depending on their perspective. The grandmother, Rosalind, pawns the candelabra to finance her daughter's trip to Mississippi, and there's even a dramatic moment where she throws the pawn ticket in a trash can outside the shop, testing whether her daughter Loretta will care enough about family history to retrieve it. Roger Ebert mentioned in his review that he liked the symbolism of the antique candelabra and noted that in a poetic and unexpected way, it shows how Loretta's great-great-grandfather essentially buys her out of slavery through this object that bears his name and memory. Fact 8. Star-studded soundtrack. No one heard the soundtrack album for Down in the Delta reads like a dream lineup of some of the biggest names in rhythm and blues, soul, and jazz music from the 1990s. Yet somehow this incredible collection of artists failed to make much of an impact with audiences or critics. Virgin Records released the soundtrack in December of 1998, featuring an international who's who of musical talent, including Whitney Houston providing background vocals for a group called Sunday, Janet Jackson, D'Angelo, Stevie Wonder, Chaka Khan, Boyz II Men, vocalist Sean Stockman, The Roots, Cassandra Wilson, legendary saxophonist and composer Stanley Clarke, Sweet Honey in the Rock, Eddie Levert from the O'Jays, and the hit-making duo Ashford and Simpson. The album opened with a church-style song called Believe in Love, performed by Sunday, featuring Whitney Houston, and it included D'Angelo's smooth jazz remake of the Ohio Players' song Heaven Must Be Like This, along with contributions from artists spanning multiple genres from blues to alternative to urban contemporary. Despite this impressive roster of talent and the variety of musical styles represented on the album, the soundtrack was largely overlooked during its initial release and didn't receive the attention that such a collection of superstar artists would normally command. Some music fans who discovered the album later praised it as one of the greatest soundtracks ever produced, noting that it worked beautifully hand in hand with the movie itself. But at the time of release, it simply didn't connect with mainstream audiences the way the producers and record label had hoped it would. Fact 9. Janet Jackson's Leftover Track. Janet Jackson's contribution to the Down in the Delta soundtrack wasn't a brand new song created specifically for the movie, but rather an older track that had been left on the cutting room floor from her previous album sessions. The ballad God's Stepchild was actually a leftover from the recording sessions for her massively successful 1997 album The Velvet Rope, which had been one of the biggest releases of that year and showcased Jackson exploring darker and more personal themes than her earlier work. When artists record albums, they typically create more songs than will actually fit on the final release. And these extra tracks often end up being saved for future projects, given away to soundtracks, or released as bonus material years later. In this case, God's Stepchild found its home on the Down in the Delta soundtrack after not making the final cut for The Velvet Rope, and the song was credited simply to Janet rather than her full name, Janet Jackson, on the soundtrack listing. This kind of repurposing of unreleased material for movie soundtracks is actually quite common in the music industry, as it gives artists a chance to share songs that might otherwise never see the light of day, while also helping to promote films that align with their artistic vision. The ballad fit thematically with the movie's focus on family, healing, and finding one's place in the world, even though it hadn't been written with the film in mind originally, and it gave fans of Janet Jackson a chance to hear material from the Velvet Rope era that they wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. Fact 10. Chicago International Film Festival Audience Award winner. While Down in the Delta didn't exactly set the box office on fire during its theatrical run, earning a modest $5.6 million total, the film found an enthusiastic champion in actual moviegoers who voted with their hearts at film festivals. The movie won the Audience Choice Award for Best Feature at the 1998 Chicago International Film Festival, which ran from October 8th through the 18th of that year, demonstrating that regular viewers connected deeply with the story even if it didn't become a mainstream commercial hit. Audience awards at film festivals carry special significance because they represent the genuine reactions of everyday filmgoers rather than the opinions of critics or industry insiders, making them a pure measure of how well a movie resonates with the people it was made for. The Chicago International Film Festival is one of the longest-running competitive film festivals in North America and has been showcasing international cinema since 1965, so winning an audience award there placed Down in the Delta among some prestigious company. The film also screened at numerous other festivals during 1998, including the Toronto International Film Festival, where it had its world premiere, the Mill Valley Film Festival, where it served as the opening night selection, the Denver International Film Festival, the Hamptons International Film Festival, and the Urban World Film Festival in New York City, where it was also chosen as the opening night film, showing that festival programmers recognized its appeal even if mainstream theater audiences didn't turn out in huge numbers for its limited theatrical release. Fact 11. Maya Angelou was an AFI alumna. Maya Angelou didn't just wake up one day and decide to direct a feature film without any formal training or preparation, because she had actually gone through the American Film Institute's prestigious Directing Workshop for Women, known as DWW, before taking on Down in the Delta as her directorial debut. The Directing Workshop for Women was established by the FI to provide opportunities and training for female directors in an industry that has historically been dominated by men, and the program has helped launch the careers of numerous successful directors over the decades. Notable alumni of the DWW program include directors who have gone on to work on major television shows like Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Grey's Anatomy, and The Killing, as well as feature film directors like Randa Haynes, who made Children of a Lesser God, showing the caliber of talent that has come through this workshop. After Down in the Delta was completed, both Maya Angelou and the film star Alfre Woodard received honorary degrees from the AFI Conservatory, which is the American Film Institute's graduate film school, recognizing their contributions to cinema and their excellence in their respective crafts. This connection between Angelou, Woodard, and the American Film Institute created an interesting full-circle moment where the institution that had helped train Angelou as a director later honored both her and her lead actress for their achievements in the field. The fact that Angelou took the time to formally study directing through the AFI program demonstrates how seriously she approached the craft and how committed she was to learning the technical and artistic skills necessary to tell stories effectively through film. Fact 12. The dated candelabra's specific year. The filmmakers went to great lengths to give the central candelabra prop a detailed backstory with specific historical dates that ground the family's history in actual American history, making the object feel like a real artifact rather than just a movie prop. The sterling silver candelabra is explicitly identified as dating back to 1852, which places its creation nearly a decade before the start of the Civil War in 1861, during a time when slavery was still legal throughout the southern United States and millions of African Americans were held in bondage. The film reveals through flashback scenes and Uncle Earl's storytelling that Nathan, the family's enslaved ancestor, was literally sold away from his wife and children in exchange for this candelabra, making it both a treasured family heirloom and a painful reminder of the brutal realities of slavery. The story doesn't end there, though, because during the chaos of the Civil War, Nathan's son, Jesse, managed to steal the candelabra back from the plantation owner's home, reclaiming this piece of silver that had cost his father his freedom and his family. This act of reclaiming the candelabra transforms it from a symbol of oppression into a symbol of resistance and family survival, and it has been passed down through multiple generations of the Sinclair family ever since, with each generation adding their own chapter to the story. The specific dating of the candelabra to 1852 gives the prop a sense of authenticity and helps viewers understand just how many generations of the family have held onto this object and the memories it represents across more than a century and a half of American history. Fact 13. Empty bus continuity error. Even carefully made films sometimes contain continuity errors that slip past the editors and directors, and Down in the Delta has a particularly noticeable one that eagle-eyed viewers spotted involving the bus that takes Loretta and her children from Chicago to Mississippi. The error happens during the sequence where the main characters are making their journey from the urban north to the rural south, which serves as one of the key transitions in the entire story. At the bus depot in Chicago, the film shows multiple passengers boarding the bus along with Loretta, her son Thomas, and her daughter Tracy, giving the impression that this is a normal commercial bus route with plenty of travelers making the cross-country trip. However, once the bus is shown traveling down the highway on its journey to Mississippi, the interior shots reveal that the bus is completely empty, except for the driver and the three main characters, with all those other passengers who boarded in Chicago having mysteriously vanished into thin air. This kind of continuity mistake is actually quite common in filmmaking, because scenes are rarely shot in chronological order and different parts of a sequence might be filmed on different days or even in different locations, making it easy for small details like background extras to be inconsistent from one shot to the next. The error doesn't really impact the emotional story or the performances in any meaningful way, but it's the kind of detail that some viewers notice and can't unsee once they've spotted it, and it has been documented on the film's trivia pages where fans discuss these types of production mistakes. Fact 14. Restaurant called Just Chicken. Uncle Earl's restaurant in rural Mississippi has one of the most hilariously straightforward and literal names you could possibly imagine for a food establishment, because it's simply called Just Chicken, which tells you exactly what you're going to get when you walk through the door without any fancy marketing or creative branding involved. The restaurant becomes an important setting in the film because it's where Uncle Earl puts Loretta to work when she arrives from Chicago, giving her a chance to learn responsibility, develop a work ethic, and earn money while she's staying with him for the summer. The menu at Just Chicken apparently features an impressive variety of chicken dishes, with the film mentioning that Earl serves at least 20 different varieties of chicken sausage alone, showing that even though the name is simple, the actual food offerings are quite specialized and diverse. One of the most memorable and comedic scenes in the movie involves Loretta's first day working in the restaurant kitchen, where she's tasked with learning how to make raw chicken sausage links by hand, a process that clearly disgusts and horrifies her as a city woman who has never done this kind of food preparation work before. Reviewers and viewers specifically mentioned this sausage-making scene as containing some genuine comedic genius, with Alfre Woodard's performance capturing Loretta's shock, horror, and disgust as she attempts to twirl raw meat around with her hands, creating a moment of levity in what is otherwise a fairly serious family drama about overcoming addiction and reconnecting with one's roots. Fact 15. Reverend Jesse Jackson. Cut a commercial. The marketing campaign for Down in the Delta took an unusual turn when the filmmakers managed to secure an endorsement from one of the most recognizable figures in American civil rights history, as Reverend Jesse Jackson recorded a 60-second promotional commercial for the film that aired nationally, starting on January 14, 1999. Jesse Jackson was and remains one of the most prominent civil rights leaders in the United States, having worked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s and later running for president twice during the 1980s, so having him lend his voice and reputation to promote a movie was a significant coup for the film's marketing team. The commercial debuted across the nation several weeks after the film's initial theatrical release on December 25, 1998. Suggesting that the filmmakers were trying to boost awareness and ticket sales after the movie had already been in theaters for a few weeks. It's quite rare for a political and civil rights figure of Jackson's stature to record promotional material for a Hollywood film, but the themes of Down in the Delta clearly resonated with his values, as the movie dealt with African American family history, the legacy of slavery, and the importance of community and heritage in building a better future. The fact that Jackson was willing to put his name and voice behind the film gave it a level of cultural credibility and endorsement that went beyond typical celebrity marketing, positioning it as an important film with meaningful messages rather than just another piece of entertainment. Other piece of entertainment. Other piece of entertainment. Other piece of entertainment.